Good morning. Happy Monday. This is Faith Family Focus, and I am one of your co hosts, Faith Suggs, former Duke women's basketball graduate and currently founder and CEO of Brand by Faith, a social media and branding company dedicated to telling the story of our clients. And this wonderful man next to me is my father, former NFL player with the New York Jets and the Cincinnati Bengals, and also has served as VP and on the executive board as the Chicago RPFPC, also known as the NFLPA, also known as the National Former League Football League Players Association, retired players, we talk about all the time. I got 7. You guys understand, I got 7 things over here down on the storyboard. But yes, that is who I am. Good morning, Dad. Happy Monday.
So I'm a former player, right? So
Former.
I live in Chicago. Hi, Faith. Good morning.
Good morning.
Viewer.
Monday.
Happy Monday. A lot to talk about this week. Excited for another great week.
Always a lot to talk about. Also, let me kick it off with your Jets real quick, though. Did you see the Hail Mary on Thursday?
That was a Hail
Now,
Mary.
explain to me how a Hail Mary works, because I'm confused. Now, they weren't down close enough points. Good morning, Pam. I'm confused. You know, when you're down 3 in a basketball game and you hit a 3, then it's tied. I'm confused.
They were down a touchdown. They were down a touchdown, so there was one play. Hail Mary, you just throw it in. Hail Mary. It's a prayer, And it's like.
Have you seen it before?
Yeah, it always happens. It's like the last play of the game.
A 49-yard. Oh, no, they had a 2-point conversion attempt to tie things up. That's what I was. I know my math. Look, I was watching the clips, and I said that the time went out on the clock, and they called on the touchdown, but maybe they stop it from when it's released. Yeah. If it's completed. Yeah.
If the play, once the play starts, it doesn't matter how. The clock can run out, but once the play starts and the clock is still before 0, that play can last forever. And then once they score a touchdown, the clock doesn't run on extra points.
Okay. Right. Not with 2-point conversions. Right. Okay, if you're joining us, we're talking about the Jets Thursday Hail Mary versus Eagles to tie it up, where they ended the game with a tie, like in soccer. I've never seen that either. I have never seen a Hail Mary in my life, so I was excited to see that our Jets got one down. We're having a good start to this preseason.
Well, it's a preseason. It's the last preseason. Now it's time. It's cut time. All the players, all the teams got to get down to their 56-player roster. So this is the toughest cut of all. So you got about 15 players that you got to cut to get down to your final roster for the first game.
Right. So, well, it was exciting. But good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I just had to slip my little tidbit in there because I finally watched some Thursday night football, and I caught my Jets, and they hit their Hail Mary. I never seen them do nothing spectacular in my life, so that one was exciting for me.
I know it's exciting, especially over in your house. The Jets is a very big thing over there, and people were probably really cheering about the Jets win over there, I'm sure.
That's not happening over here. But no, very exciting. Dad, how was the weather? How was the weekend? Gosh, and prayers go to the people of New Orleans, a beautiful city with Hurricane Ida coming in on the anniversary of Katrina. Prayers to everyone there. But how is your weather over there in the Midwest of Chicago?
Yeah, we've had some rain, some thunderstorms too.
Okay.
That season with thunderstorms. It's hot or rainy. So hopefully we have only a couple more weeks where the temperatures drop. Starts getting into our fall.
Fall. September 22nd, to be exact, is the first day of fall. Football time, basketball preseason. It's going to be an interesting fall. I hope that we're all staying safe with everything with COVID. But, man, I'm ready for, the leaves to fall because this was a hot summer. I feel like this was a hot summer, and this is the first summer I've been in 100 degrees multiple times a month. I'm not excited. Even though North Carolina got hot, but it was more humid when I was playing at Duke. So I don't know what's going on with the Midwest. We got a heat wave coming from Arizona or something.
That's how they're very resilient these days. Probably hot weather.
It's not the fact that it's 100 degrees. It has nothing to do with that. Got it. Well, if you're joining us this morning, Hello, welcome back. Make sure you're sharing the show. Comment, like, say hello, ask us questions. We answer them, hopefully with the right answers. Let's talk what else is new, what's going on. You talked a little bit of NFL preseason. It should be wrapping up. I caught a little bit. I'm on episode 2 of Hard Knocks with the Cowboys. So I'm enjoying that a little bit. That's a fun show. I like that show.
Yeah, that's always been a good series. I don't know how long Hard Knocks has been out there, but it's pretty. I like how real it is. I mean, and for a player who knows what it's like to be in a training camp, it's pretty real. And I like how they touch on different narratives of training camp, the ups and downs, the interpersonalities, the coaches' relationships.
Right.
It's a good show, so I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Yeah. No, I'm enjoying it. I didn't really know a lot about Jerry Jones, but I never seen, and maybe that's how a lot of NFL owners are, but he is like, when I saw him sitting behind his desk, he was at every single practice and at every single meeting, and he was eating his McGriddle, which I'll be honest with you, he's a little too old to be eating a McGriddle. I was like, man, this guy really loves these Cowboys. Like,
he's a very hands-on, always been a very hands-on, and so normally you know coaching with the Cowboys that you're really the assistant coach. Mm-hmm. Jerry Jones really still runs the show. So
that was my question, because it's the coach now is the guy who was with the Packers.
Currently, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I gave a little inside scoop behind him, their conversations, and I was like, a little stressful. It's never easy having a AD or an owner who's hands-on with every single thing you're trying to do with your program. But that's what my question was. I was wondering if it was hard to coach for the Dallas Cowboys, and you answered it with even.
Well, you're not really. Jerry Jones is very hands-on. It's his team, and he's very. He's not afraid to. I mean, he's done a lot. I mean, look at that new stadium that they have.
Yeah,
it's always been a top-notch franchise.
Yeah.
Always. So I'm glad you're enjoying it. I mean, football season's about to start.
Yes, it is.
Your brother had his first scrimmage this weekend. You got another one coming up. It's really hot. Training camp is really hot.
I'm tired. We've all been through it. No, I talked to him a little bit, and his birthday is coming up this Wednesday. September 1st, he turns 20 years old. Just 20 years ago. It's also the 20th anniversary of 9/11, which is kind of crazy. Because we were there. We were in New York for the 10-year anniversary.
We were.
Now that's crazy, right? How fast life is going, and Devin's an old person now. It makes me old, and I don't know what that makes you.
No, I get younger.
You get younger with age, yeah, okay. There's one topic I want to talk a little bit NBA, and we haven't talked about this enough, but there's been a lot of moves going around surrounding Los Angeles and the Lakers.
Wow.
LeBron has now brought in, mind you, Dwight Howard I believe is going back to the Lakers. Now, don't quote me on that. Rajon Rondo is also in the discussion of going back. But LeBron, Carmelo, Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis, let's stop there. Let's stop there, right? So not only is Carmelo the leading point person for the USA basketball, he's also, multiple time All-Star, playoff contender, McDonald's All-American, top first-round draft pick, and probably one of the top players we could talk about when we talk about Carmelo Anthony. We talk about Russell Westbrook. The most triple-doubles since Oscar Robertson, right? Playoff contender, from UCLA, from LA, went to UCLA, right? He's always an all-star. We'll talk about that, but still doesn't have his championship. But we have LeBron James. There's a lot of dynamics rolling into this, right? And I'm very interested to see. We talked about the dream team and the redeem team. When you have a bunch of talent in an organization at one time, how do you make it work? And so it's going to be very interesting to see. And I've watched a lot of interviews lately of Carmelo talking about kind of how he thinks it's going to work and his memories from the redeem team. I'm very interested to see how all this talent works. Will we start to see the backpedal of LeBron James? Will he start to take that back seat more than he has been? Or will this be his redemption year? What do you think, Dad?
Well, I think your statement is just LeBron. He's had how many championships have he had? He's had what, three championships?
All I know is he's been in every final since I think the last two.
I think the Lakers are just making a move. I know that they were really 3-point shooters. So I'm looking at this combination of Carmelo, Rondo, Dwight Howard, obviously. You know, he that's a steal. He's going to be signing his third minimum salary contract. But you know, here's a guy that just want to play basketball, and you know, he comes in, he can rebound, he can block shots. So I think what LeBron is just trying to get a supporting cast that that you know when they go down to that final games, there's a lot of experience there. Westbrook is not the greatest.
What?
Shooter. Is he? He's not, right?
Well, he doesn't really take it. Here's what I'll say about his perimeter game. I think he can shoot them. Here's my thing about Russell Westbrook. He's always a leaning forward player. He's leaning forward. So he's always using momentum to score, pass, rebound. Everything he does is through momentum. And so his game doesn't really align with three-pointers. Not because I don't think he can shoot them, it's because he's not taking them. And I'm very interested to see, and that's what I was going to bring up to you, is if he kind of takes that role with the Lakers, because you got Anthony Davis in the paint, right? You got LeBron from three-point line to mid-range area. You got Dwight Howard down the paint. Now, I don't think they're going to pay Dwight Howard and Anthony Davis together, but I'm very interested to see where Russell Westbrook gets his scoring in, because taking it to the basket. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's always head steam moving forward.
Downhill. He's always going downhill, right?
Right. So I'm very interested to see if he does have to start stopping at the perimeter, right? Does his game change to evolve within this organization? Because at the end of the day, Carmelo, LeBron, and Anthony Davis both are, you pass it to them, they hold the ball for 5 seconds because that's what they're supposed to do, right? They're supposed to figure out if they can score. So I'm very interested to see how Russell Westbrook fits into that, like you said. Because when you said 3-point thing, I'm like, that's something he's gonna have to do. I'm very interested.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out. A lot of moves being made, right? So
I hope that.
Can I say something? There's so much parity in the NBA because of this. You see a lot more parity because teams are stacking. There's that group of teams that are always going to be contenders, and you have that lower half of teams that, I mean, look at the Bulls might be doing something this year. They made some good moves. You don't think so?
I think they're young. I think we're looking at the Bulls the same way we're looking at, who am I blanking on? They just loaded a bunch of young people. Well, the Bulls are one, right?
Saints, the Knicks, Nets.
The Knicks is who I was talking about. The Nets are number one going into this season. They came out with the preseason rankings a little bit after all the trades. They said that the Nets are number one, Milwaukee's number two, and they said the Lakers are number three. And a lot of people are saying that they're upset that the Lakers aren't number one. I'll be honest with you. I'm surprised, regardless of the amount of talent they have on the team, I'm surprised they are that high, considering age, considering the season the Lakers had last year, regardless of who was on the team and not. And also because they haven't played together yet. We've only seen LeBron and AD play together. We have not seen Carmelo add to the picture other than USA, and Russell Westbrook add to the picture other than USA. So I'm very interested to see. I know we all want LeBron to do well. I want LeBron to do well. But I'm very interested to see, I mean, are they better than the Nets, which have already played together but were struck by injuries? I don't know. But they are two different conferences. And the Milwaukee and the Nets got to play each other more times than the Lakers plays them. So it's going to be very interesting for sure. No, I agree with you. But that is what the rankings said. They had the Nets at number one still because they have Kyrie, KD, Jeff Green, talent. Young talent, young, mature talent in their prime. Kind of where we were when Kobe and Shaq were in the day. But yeah, so it's gonna be interesting, Dad. I'm excited for the NBA for sure, and see who jabs in there. The Bulls have a lot of talent, a lot of young talent, but I'm interested to see, do we have the right coach to handle the talent?
No, I know this is not on our storyboard, but how's the WNBA doing? I know there's a couple games. What's going on? Yeah,
great. It's been really exciting. If you haven't got a chance, it's on NBA TV. They play a lot of games every day. I think there's 2 games I got to watch. A really great game the New York Liberty played the Phoenix Mercury. If you don't know anything about the Phoenix Mercury, they have Brittany Griner, Diana Taurasi, Skylar Diggins. They have everybody over there. And then New York Liberty is the young team of the league, right now, but they have a lot of uprising talent with Sabrina Ionescu and a couple other ladies. And that game actually was a little spicy. I don't know if you guys know the history and the context of that game, but earlier in the season, before the break, Skylar Diggins and a couple of New York Liberty players went back and forth on Twitter, commenting back and forth, and fighting words were said. This was the first game since that game, and Phoenix Mercury killed them. And then the next game, because they played back-to-back, Skylar Diggins came out and had 27 points.
A little smack talking, huh?
Yeah, but it was in the kid who was talking smack didn't even play, so it's just typical rookie stuff. But no, Skylar did really well. She had 27 points, of course. I think we're watching her game finally be where it's supposed to be with consistent years of health playing a role. And, of course, you got Diana in there.
Right, Diana Taurasi, right.
She's a beast. Again, that doesn't make sense at 40 years old. But no, it's been really fun. I mean, if you guys have not caught it, it's on NBA TV. They throw them on ESPN here and there, but definitely you can catch them on NBA TV back-to-back with great analysis. Renee Montgomery and a bunch of other players. Candace Parker had a great game with the Sky the other day. I don't know how they're doing with their season, but we're all rooting for Candace, of course, hometown kid. But exciting stuff with the NBA, the NFL. Sports is finally going. College football is right around the corner. We got scrimmages here, left and right. UCLA and Hawaii have already played a Saturday football game, which is kind of crazy, even though they were killed by UCLA, and there weren't really any students in the fan. But it feels like fall, right? It feels like sports are coming across the table, so we're gonna have a lot more to talk about, I feel like, at the end of September. But yeah, I'm excited, Dad. I'm excited to talk about some stuff today. I'm excited to kind of dive into a Monday and start a good week off. And what we're going to talk about today is something. Let me pull up our sticker. There we go. Episode 29, Grow While You Wait, Waiting Your Turn for Opportunity Within Collegiate Sports. That's what we're going to dive in today. After this quick commercial, to talk about our upcoming new segment, The Huddle, that comes Wednesdays starting next week. We'll see you guys in a second. All right, everyone, that's a reminder. The Huddle starts this September, which is next week. I will be bringing our guests to the Huddle with great topics, great guests, great conversation, and vulnerable conversations surrounding sports and maybe outside of sports and who our story is. We're taking a little segment after Faith Family Focus and making something a little more grander, maybe younger, and see where it goes. And hope everyone enjoys it. But today we're talking about something that I've been through, my dad's been through, and he has a pretty awesome story with it. Collegiate sports is a dream for many, right? We go to make friendships, memories, to win championships, to win awards. We get education and awesome opportunities as we're there, right? Everyone can imagine and only dream of the opportunities you get as a collegiate athlete. However, there's always the want to know if you're going to play when you enter as an 18-year-old kid. And that doesn't always work for many, whether it's football, basketball, volleyball, soccer. You always do have that first year, second year struggles to try to find your way on the field or the court. But no matter what, stuff's falling together over here. No matter what, your turn is going to come, and it's up to your positivity and your optimism, which we're going to dive a little bit today to talk about how do you even survive having to wait your turn for your opportunity that you work so hard for. So, Dad, I love that you brought up this conversation and this topic to us. Talk to us a little bit about what kind of struck your mind when you brought this to me.
Well, our own, what we're experiencing with Devin right now, just him coming to the realization that he's a freshman, sophomore, that he's going to have to really work to get himself on the field, and the realization that any kid that goes into college, unless you're a five-star athlete, most of the time is going to have to wait for their turn. And the growing numbers of transfers, portals, and the impatience of a lot of kids, their families, you're seeing a lot of this change. But the reality is, it's such a healthy experience to go through waiting. 4 years of college is just not necessarily about sports. And I guess I can say that because I've experienced the waiting game, and I experienced graduating, I experienced the waiting game in college, in football, and the results were rewarding. But the growth that goes along with being a good teammate, being patient, going through the frustration, going through the self-doubt, just fighting through it, it's just such a growth experience in life. And, like I said to you, I've had at every level of my life where I had to wait. I was sitting on the bench and I had to wait my turn. And while you're waiting on the bench, what is going through your mind, physically and mentally? What is going through? And we want to talk a little bit about that because it's something that's kind of changing right now. With this world of entitlement, with this world of trying to get what you want immediately, and if you don't, you make a change. And so I thought it would be a good topic to share with our viewers today.
Yeah. And before we dive into that, I have a couple photos of our college experience that we can share with. I just have a few of mine through Google. There's me. I don't even know what year that was. That was probably freshman year. And then here I am, Sweet 16 course.
You know what? Can I say, hold that thought right there. That was your freshman year, and then this was your junior year. So between your freshman year to your junior year, you went from, not playing as much to now, this is after a Sweet 16 game where you play a pivotal role on the team. And that was because of you having to really fight your way onto the court. And so that was a really good show. And I'm proud to share this because, your show, The Huddle, it's your leadership, it's your voice, it's the way that you, that's why you are that person in that huddle, motivating and inspiring. And so you found a role on that team.
Yeah. And then I have a few throwbacks for you. Don't forget about Schaefer Suggs.
Yeah, and here's a good example here. As a junior year, ironically, I got a chance to go see, Coach Kurt's memorial service, but my high school coach, Keith Doherty, was there. He was 95 years old. And this is my junior year where I sit on the bench the whole year until the tournament, and I got my call to go into the game. This was the semi-state, and I came in, I scored 14 points. And that whole season, I basically sit the bench. And when I got my opportunity to play, I got in that game. And that tournament, we ended up playing in the championship game, the 1971-72 state championship, but I played a different role as a junior. And, there I am on the right side with my little victory sign, my 31, with my little afro.
I see now the V. What peace sign means nowadays, but I understand what you mean. This one is from earlier, and make sure everyone can.
Yeah, when I was in that same tournament, that was probably the sectional. But, but that is a good example. I have those memories, and I know what that meant.
Yeah.
As a junior, and so I think parents need to understand, kids need to understand that it's part of the game. In the basketball team, there's only 5 players on the court at one time. Football team, there's only 11 players on the court. Football field at one time, and you just gotta wait.
Yeah, and so I guess as we dive into this topic, our first step, and I kind of took time yesterday to kind of really think about how you would kind of walk through this kind of adversity a little bit that you face as a college athlete. But as I was thinking, I was like, man, we face this adversity once we stop becoming college athletes as well, whether in the workforce, it is in the workforce, right? You can constantly competing for opportunities and promotions and new jobs. And especially nowadays with the great resignation happening, there's a lot of people resigning from their corporate jobs to kind of dive into their own business. And so we're starting to see this collegiate athlete mentality of chasing your opportunities and figuring out when your opportunity is and when to be patient. It's all kind of transcending through life right now. And so the first one I wanted to really dive into is the first step of all of this is acknowledgement, because you can't right? You become an 18-year-old, and we all think we're on top of the world. We're 18 years old, and then we go play collegiate sports, which is our dream to do, right? We have achieved the first step in our goals, right? And I guess my question is what does it mean to acknowledge your situation? When do you know you're behind, right? You're not going to play next month. What does it mean to acknowledge that at first, Dad, to be honest with yourself?
Well, it's hard. It's hard to acknowledge. It's really, I don't know if it's an acknowledgement, it's a reality. When you go to practice and when you're not getting the reps, and when you're not, when you're not in that starting lineup, and it's the reality. And then what the question is, how do you accept that reality?
Yep.
Okay? How do you accept it? Because it's not something, I don't think there's really an acknowledgement. It's just like acceptance of it. Because once you accept it, you realize, okay, now I always use the term, be ready to go, even if you don't get to go. You never know, especially in football, when your turn is going to be up, right? And when the coaches decide who's going to be that next player up, they're going to pick the player that was always ready, they had the great attitude, that never had an attitude about not playing, that wasn't toxic in the locker room, on the field, a good teammate. They want that player that hustles in practice. They want that player that they know is a team player, and you need to be that player. Yeah. So that's the key. And and I know, when coaches recruit players, they don't necessarily recruit players that are good starters. They recruit players that understand that they don't start, they're going to be a good football or basketball player. They're going to be a good teammate.
Yeah. I guess for me, when we talk about acknowledgement, and is like staring the truth, and this is the first time really a lot of athletes, when they're top level athletes, and to those that are watching and we share with the show with, this is the first time you face a real adversity within something that brings you so much joy and something that you've always been so good at, right? This is like your life, right? This is your achievement, it's your identity. And so this is the first time your identity is kind of like shook a little bit, like, wait a second, like, right, wait a second, this isn't, what do you mean I can't be this right now? I have to find something else to do. So you have that mental pull as well, right? And it's hard to acknowledge the fact that I am behind. And I think this is the first moment where student athletes have a real, like, come to Jesus moment where they realize I got to either work harder or I have to reassess who I am. Am I just the basketball player? Am I just the football player? Or am I this or I'm that? So that for me is the first thing you do. But also, how do you even notice is don't be let's not be oblivious to the situation, because some kids are oblivious to the fact they don't have opportunity. Like, notice the fact that if you're not getting a lot of reps, you're not going to play, right? If you are, struggling in the weight room, if you're struggling in conditioning, it's likely not going to happen, right? You have to remember, a lot of these veterans that you come into the locker room with have been doing this for 3-4 years, right? So they're knocking out 80 push-ups. They're knocking out, right? And everyone at the end of the day, when it comes to a team, brings something special and their own talent, regardless of sports, right? So whether it's leadership, whether it's conditioning, whether it's this, whether it's that, whether it's academics, which is a big thing. They always got that one kid in the team who's a genius. And so you when you acknowledge kind of figuring out where you fit in, I think that's kind of like the first step. Like, maybe that's not my position yet. Maybe that's not my step. And I guess one of the pieces I want to take is, why does this happen? Because it has to happen. At the end of the day, this college sports is a business. We've talked about the NCAA for so many episodes, right? Talking about the money that goes into this organization and to these universities. And these universities make more money and these coaches make more money the more you win. And so as a coach, you have to put the winning team on the court, the winning players on the court, because at the end of the day, you're getting paid, you get bonuses, you get this, you get this, you get extra years in your contract. And so that's why it happens. It's not the competitiveness behind playing time comes very much behind the fact that you're supposed to be winning and succeeding in this sport, whatever it may be at that level. And if you're on the court and you're not helping the organization of the program, the business succeed, you're at that point the weakest link. And I've played for a lot of coaches that say you're only as strong as your weakest link. And they make sure you know who's the weakest link, right? Because that's what that level is. It's extremely blatantly honest. And so acknowledging the fact by yourself first and being honest with yourself can help you a lot with the transition, because it's not an easy transition to make when you're at the high of your life, to have to figure out and navigate now to being lost within the masses of people who also aren't going to play, especially when football.
Let me go back to something that you shared. When you asked about acknowledgement, and you again started talking, you both some thought that we all come from. Just think about it. You were the star of your team in high school. You were the star of your team. When you get to a school, you realize that, oh my God, I'm not starting.
Right.
Other players as good as you,
Mm-hmm.
or better, right? That's the acknowledgement where now you have to compete. And I ran into that in football. I ran into that when I even got to the Jets. Every year the acknowledgement of that every year I gotta compete. But the reality is a lot of kids are coming from where they were the superstar.
In their family as well.
Exactly. And
that's a big thing.
That's a very good point. Now hold on to that thought, because that's probably one of the reasons that we have a hard time with kids not acknowledging, accepting, because the family's not accepting.
Right.
We're coming into these superstars, coming into all of a sudden, maybe when you went to USA, or when you played, you got a chance to work for the McDonald's and stuff like that. You realize when you went to Duke, you had all the other up and down All-Americans. You were not the only one that was at the level that you are. And that's your acknowledgement, the acceptance that, oh my God, I got to compete. And soon after that, it takes a special person. I think it takes a special family to support that kid, to be able to accept and acknowledge that, because a lot of kids, a lot of parents don't want that. They don't want to be in a situation where their kid is not the number one player on the team. They make that move. So I just want to say that, Mark, because a lot of these families are coming from, and they purposely put their kids in the best situation where they are the best. Right?
Yeah.
So I don't want to hit you with that. I'll go back to the acknowledgement.
Yeah, and I want to give you a second to think about this, is how to be honest with oneself in this situation. Is what are some simple steps someone can perform to have honest communication and relationship with themselves. And my simple steps, I only have 3, is, for me, what worked is always God. Even though I wasn't really my relationship with God wasn't as strong. It was just a basic, when you're a teenager, you go to church with your family, and you don't really come into your relationship with God, which I'm convinced, until you take ownership of it. And I didn't take ownership up until my junior, senior year. But one of my biggest things is understanding that there's always a bigger purpose to your process. And for me, that was something that helped me, is always thinking the long term instead of the short term in the moment. Because when you think in the moment, you don't really go anywhere. Your head's down. But when you look forward, you have a better chance of going forward. And number 2 was to focus and take a step back and see the bigger picture. And I say this all the time when we talk about this, or even talk about it in general, just any form of adversity. There's always a bigger picture to it, right? And there's a bigger picture and a bigger purpose, like I said. And if there's a bigger picture, you're going to be okay. And that's what that helps me always get through it. It's like, this isn't the end of the world, and it's not. It's just the end of who you thought you were going to be for that time being. And for a lot of people, that's hard to do.
Yeah, I have to ask you to slow down and say that again. That was profound.
Well, that's not fair. I don't really remember what I just said.
Yeah, but I want you to slow down. It's really good, Faith.
I think what I just said was, okay, yeah. So step back and find the bigger purpose. And when you find the bigger purpose, honestly, and I say this all the time, we talked about in our purpose show, when we go through so many changes in our lives, like we evolve, I feel like every 2 years, like who we were 2 years ago is not who we are now. Who we were 4 years ago is not who we are now. And so when you go become an 18-year-old, you go from the top, figuratively, you literally are the top of high school, right? You're the senior, then you have to go to the bottom again, right? Where you have to figure out everything, which is hard, all over again. But also you're in a locker room with grown adults, right? You're 23-year-olds, 22-year-olds who have already lived their lives and done their highs and lows and are already focusing on their next steps. And so when you go that, you're already going through an identity crisis, trying to figure out who you're going to be. And I think that for a lot of people, they're holding on to that high of who they want themselves to be, instead of allowing life to make them who they're supposed to be. And I think that's a lot of what comes from that transition. And I think that's that transition for everyone, every 2 years. When we graduate from college, we think we're supposed to be something. supposed to get this job and all this and opportunity, and then get married in 4 years and have kids, and we're supposed to live in the house or whatever with the big fancy loft or whatever it is, right, that society places in front of us as we think is supposed to be the path. But none of those paths actually make sense, because how are you supposed to get those? You're not God. And so a lot of what my transition was about is just understanding that I have no control over anything except for how I mentally perceive it. And that kind of helped me with my honest communication with me, which is not easy for a lot of people to have honest conversations with themselves, because it's way easier to be sad than to be honest with yourself, especially when you're only 18. You know what I mean? And that's just, you see that a lot. Even when I was coaching, you see it all the time. It's just, you see that the kids get stuck in that little rut that they can't get out of, because they can't figure out who they're supposed to be or how they're supposed to do it, because they've never had to fix something or change something in their lives up to that point. But yeah, that's what I thought, is ways to be honest with yourself. And that's when I was writing the story. But I was like, how can we find ways to like maybe put a layout or a game plan down for people going through this? And for me, it was very much God, stepping outside of yourself and seeing the bigger picture.
Yeah, I wanted to share that again, because that's a really good self-reflection. I think my question for you is, I know that it took you a couple years into college to get to that point. How do you help a kid who's just going in through it right now? At what point did you realize that you had to do that? Because when kids are coming into their freshman year, they're so conflicted when they're going through this. You know, how do they navigate to get to a point where they have the tools to have some self-reflection? Because, you know, I mean, I wasn't in your ear.
No.
You wouldn't let me be in your ear.
No.
Okay. But say the kids that have their parents in their ear, they're so conflicted. How do they navigate through that to me?
For me, period, before we can get to the coach and the family part, like, and like families and people, for me, it was like either you keep waking up sad or you just kind of like figure it out. Do you know what I mean? Like, you keep waking up, like, and you have to make that choice in life. That's everything we go through as adults, right? Like, you're an adult now. No one can fix how your brain works. You have to figure out how to help your brain work and put your brain in the best position for you to not be sad or angry or frustrated or with your situation. For me, that was what I was like. I woke up and I was like, I'm not about to just keep being sad. I can't. Like, this doesn't make sense, right? Like, it's not like I can wake up and snap my fingers and make everything go exactly to how I want it. Life doesn't always go the way you want it to be. And for me, I was just like, let me step back and not be as attached to this. Because it's like when you're super attached to things, you give that thing that you're attached to a lot of power over how you feel. And that's the book I read. It's called Attached. If you guys want to look it up, it's about when you form relationships or friendships or even just like figurative attachments to things, a TV show, a job, a dream. You give it so much power over how you feel from a day to day, right? And for me, it was like when you talk about basketball and like this idea of being attached to it emotionally and wanting it to everything to go the way I want it to go, I was literally setting myself up for like disappointment every single day. So I stepped back and was like, I don't care, because it's not that big of a deal. And for me, once I did that, it helped me like just be a better person to myself. And then I didn't want to tell you like on the phone call like that, I do not care. Like, I care in a different way now. And that to me was like, I don't need to explain that to anybody, because at the end of the day, it's my process. But for me, it was very much like stepping back and like not being as attached in a way in comparison to just being attached to the process, the memories, the winning, that stuff. Like, I was super disappointed if we lost, but I wasn't super disappointed if I didn't play well. I was super disappointed if I didn't play well, if it affected our win or loss. That to me was where because it was more kind of like, and once I was able to do that, I just stopped being so like, you don't want to give something that much power to make your emotions go up and down like that. Like, it's literally setting yourself up for failure or like a super, super awesome high of life. But for me, I just like, I gotta cut these ties a teensy bit, because it's just too much control over how I feel about myself over a game. You know what I mean? For me, that was in like with you, I think you started to see that like transition, and like I try to help other people see that for themselves too, because it's when you're super attached to something, you give it, like I said, you give it way too much control over making you happy or sad, and that doesn't make sense, because the only thing that should be able to control your emotions is you and God.
Right. So now, as kids going through this, I see your next point here is how you navigate the family.
Yeah.
As you're going through realization and acknowledgement that you're not playing as much as you want.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about that. How do you stay positive?
I want to merge the family and positivity, and then eventually transition to my third ideal topic, because it's like a step.
Okay.
So how do you stay positive? Like I just said, you just do. And that's not easy to do, because we have many conversations about mental health, and like sometimes there's a chemical imbalance in your brain that just makes you sad, right? And I see that a lot with student athletes. Like when everything that you work for isn't going the right way, it's almost impossible for you to be positive, right? And so for me, what I started to do is try to find positivity and attach to things that I knew were genuinely always going to make me have a great mood. And that was like my teammates, or the memories you make, or going to see a movie, finding the bigger picture of all of it, and then also enjoying the process more than like being the process. You know what I mean? Like there's so much pressure on student athletes and like college students to like do the right thing and be perfect and like do all this. For me, it was just like, I just want to embrace making everybody happy and embrace uplifting everyone. And if you ever are someone who does that for other people, you know that like the affirmation and the feel good that comes back from it is better than you going to score 2 points or a career high. Like it's for me, like that's just kind of what it is. And so for me, that was my positive steps. It's like trying to look at the bigger picture and enjoy it while you're in it, because it's not easy to enjoy stuff when you're still trying to figure out who you are. But for me, it was like just becoming a great teammate, cheering for my teammates, hanging out with my teammates, making memories, doing well in school, doing all the stuff I can control, and see if maybe my mind shifts to positivity, right, in some sort of way. And in regard to like communicating to family, you don't have to explain yourself to anybody on this planet. There's no requirement to have to explain what works for you to make you happy, right? That to me, when you start to put pressure on having to explain to everybody, and I'm still 24 years old learning that, you are missing out on like moments that could make you super, super, super happy. Especially when you're in college, when it's supposed to be literally fun all the time. You don't have any bills to pay. But I feel like in college, you have more pressure because you are still in that family daughter-son dynamic. And so for me, like I cut off communication healthily. Like I didn't cut it off, like don't ever talk to me again. But I set boundaries, because I knew like, wow, I know I'm going to be kind of sad after this game because I didn't play or disappointed myself. So I'm going to find a way to like not let other people like invade my positives, trying to heal my space. You know what I mean? Like try to make me feel better, try to be positive. So I would go to Chili's with my teammates, or I would go to Chipotle with my teammates instead of like looking at my phone or stuff like that, because that like gets you out of your rut, that gets you out of your like negative space. And then I would call you when I was in such a positive space to communicate and be in a good mood and let you know it's okay. And because you just you gotta really understand, like if you're in a bad mood and you like go in a place that you know is gonna remind you that you're in a bad mood, and that's not saying your family's talking bad to you. It's more kind of like it's just a reminder that you have to even talk about everything again. And you and I were talking about this the other day with Devin. As Devin called me and he was just talking and talking and talking. And I didn't even ask him about any of this, right? But I think that for him, if I had asked the question or invaded his space with a question in regard to it, he may have shut down. And so I just laid back and was just letting him talk and talk and talk. Because sometimes when you're going through hard times, all you want to do is just talk and feel bad for yourself and then feel better. And for me, sometimes family is like the one group of people that you want to make proud all the time, but also the one group of people who can say something and like hit that nerve and they didn't even say anything wrong. And so that's kind of for me, I was like, let me not like put myself in a space where I'll be mean Or also, like, I'll feel bad because I got to talk about all this stuff again. So I just didn't talk about anything. and that was okay. But for me, like, that was a good balance for me, just like understanding where I should put myself and where I should like remove and put myself and go get some food or get ice cream or cookies or whatever pizza I wanted. Like, I was just like, rather put myself in a healthy, happy space than somewhere else. That will remind me that I was going through a lot of stuff. Because at the end of the day, like I said, my this family and friends, you don't have to explain anything to them. And I think that if you ever have to set a boundary and that person is upset about the boundary, then the boundary should have been set to begin with. Because real family and friends love you enough to understand that you're going to try to figure it out yourself. And if you really need the help, you'll come to them. And I think that's the beauty of how family works. There's like an unspoken tie of understanding. You know what I mean? But that kind of, and I don't know, Dad. I mean, you guys didn't have phones when you played. Like, you didn't have communication like that all the time. You didn't have cell phones where you could just FaceTime and text and all that stuff. How did you navigate like your early? Because you had a really great break, which we talked about yesterday. But how did you navigate those early years or early parts of the season between both sports, with football and basketball, with your family?
Well, the topic was about not playing and struggling with that. I didn't have any.
Yeah.
So I had to figure it out, which, as you were talking about, that you guys had to figure it out yourselves.
Yeah.
And so I did. I mean, we didn't have any type of communication. My mom was always listening, but with me being such a big game, you know, the last person you want to talk to is me. And I'm going to ask you very specific questions around the game. You don't want to go, although I don't know. I'm thinking so you spent some time this last 5 minutes really breaking down why it's as a young athlete you attach and put yourself in a safe space yourself. So you don't that kind of a lot of really mental decisions that they basically drive kids out of school and transfer, you know.
Which is what I want to kind of talk about. Like, yeah, this is what I want to talk about. So we have seen, since I started playing at Duke, the transition and the shift of transferring within collegiate sports, where it was really taboo my freshman year into my senior year, where it was happening more and more frequently. I had lost maybe 1 teammate to 2 teammates a year to transfer. And now you don't have to sit out a year to transfer, right? You get to start playing right away. Where originally you had to be approved, depending on how many games you played, to get your red shirt. Then you had a city year, and it was kind of this whole commitment thing, right? It was a big decision. Now you can just kind of jump ship and move to whatever program you want to be at. I very much see a lot of pros and cons in this, right? Because everything we're talking about is like sitting still, appreciating your opportunity, making the best out of your opportunity, staying positive and waiting your turn, right? That's what we're talking about, which is very much your generation to maybe a middle of my generation, my years in college. Like, that's what we were taught, right? To wait your turn and then you'll have an opportunity. But what we have noticed and what we have seen with LSU football, Alabama football, Clemson football, all these quarterbacks transferring to better schools or good schools and getting their opportunities to play and then having a great season. Or you see in basketball, these kids either transferring to go back home, or they're transferring a better position, but they're transferring a coach they like better. And it works out. But you also see some kids who are transferring and they're on their third school and they're 22 years old, but they're finally picking the school they want to play at to finish their career. So we're seeing transferring now become a big thing for kids to make the decision. And it's not more of like a major, big, oh no decision anymore. For me, the waiting your turn mentality, I feel like only applies to those who really, really, really want to wait their turn for the right reasons, right? And you go to a school that waits your turn for a better reason. You go to a school that you really love the student body, but you're not playing, but you really want to stay there, right? I know there's kids like that. Or you go to a school where you just want to be a part of the organization. You go to Alabama football, you just want to be part of Roll Tide, to be around the greatness, and eventually your sixth year at Alabama, which is normally how it works, you get your chances. That is that student athlete, right? You also have these student athletes that I very much am considering is actually really cool to watch. Is they're like, you know what? This coach, I thought who they were going to be. I think they're great people. I really love this place, but I really just want to play. I came here to play. I want to go here, and I think that I'll be inspired or become a better person somewhere else. And they do it. They don't even ask parents anymore. They just move. You know what I mean? And for me, I think is we're seeing this shift in young adults are now having to figure out what's best for them by taking a risk. And they transferring is a risk. It could flop, right? I've seen a lot of women's basketball players transfer to Syracuse women's basketball. Let's use them as an example. They had maybe 4 or 5 transfers come in this year. Coach resigned. So now they're in the middle of interim coach, and all these girls have a new coach, but they transferred for a better opportunity. That happens. That's a risk. For me, I very much encourage transferring for the right reasons. I encourage you, if you really, really love something and you believe in yourself, take the jump, right? And hopefully it will work out for you, which it often does, right? Because these kids have thought hard and long on it. But don't jump ship. And this is what we learned a lot over this past year in the coaching world, is don't jump ship because you think that don't jump ship if you go to a school that only gives out 6 scholarships on the team. Or don't jump ship if your team doesn't always get on TV. Because this is a big deal, right? When you jump ship, and I say this a lot, is we have this thing called the transfer portal, right? Where kids can enter the transfer portal, and all these college coaches can see the kid's name, where they want to transfer from, and the film and tape on them, right? That's a transfer portal. It's at all sports. There was over 1,000 student athletes in it, over 1,300 student athletes in it, in women's basketball, in men's basketball, and football in this last year because of COVID. A lot of those student athletes did not go to Power 5 schools. A lot of those student athletes didn't go to mid-majors, even though there was probably 500, 800 that did go to good schools that would be on ESPN or Fox or CBS or whatever and have a chance to meet them. There's a lot of student athletes who transferred for the wrong reasons and probably will land somewhere that doesn't matter. Here's the thing, like I said, when you want to transfer for the right reasons. If you transfer to play, transfer to play. If you transfer academics, transfer academics. If you transfer to try to play for someone who's a great leader you want to become, transfer. If you want to transfer to go back home, transfer. I've seen a lot of student athletes go back to USC. They're from LA. Great. But I think that this switching and changing of sports and how student athletes are changing schools and colleges is very much due to the very fact that the education isn't the prize anymore. And that's good and bad, right? We're seeing a lot of student athletes now make money off their name, image, likeness. What's the point of a college degree? Amazon and all these Google and these companies are hiring top manager positions for people without collegiate educations. So we're starting to see amateurism go out the window from college sports. And now these kids are transferring for money reasons, for logistical reasons. And so I don't know, I wait your turn if you want to be a wait your turn athlete and get the best out of your experience. That's a completely different dynamic. And transfer if you feel like transferring works for you in your college career. That makes sense. But we definitely are seeing a change across the board in all of this, especially in football. But yeah, no, that's my thing. I wanted to make sure before we finish the conversation, we talk about the patience, the positivity, and the faith in God, and all the things that come into being a collegiate athlete that first couple of years. Make sure you know who you are so you can understand what's the best situation for you, because it's a wide open door nowadays for the NCAA.
Wow. Back a lot. I love it.
Yeah, well, we have 1 minute. But I wanted to make sure we got it in, and I think we're going to dive a little bit into that soon because I wanted to kind of do a regroup eventually with the NIL update for everyone, the name, image, likeness update. We're over 40 days post decision. So we're going to hopefully dive into that soon. But thank you again, everyone, for joining us this Monday morning. Exciting Faith Family Focus episode ahead this Friday. Once again, the huddle will be coming soon this next week, September. Fall is around the corner, but most importantly, thank you to Amazon Fire, YouTube, Facebook, Roku, Apple TV, and of course, our key platform out of Phoenix, Arizona, E360 TV. Again, this is Faith Family Focus, where we use our faith as a vehicle to help heal and sustain others on their path to strengthen the family core. And of course, our slogan before we leave you guys this Monday. Everyone have a wonderful Monday, and we will see you guys at the end of this week. See you soon.